let's see. All right. When writing new music, are you incredibly impressionable by other artistic experiences? Do you try and distance yourself from these to keep your music as authentic as it can be? If this is something you practice, do you secretly hate it? Once an album is recorded, do you then allow yourself to binge through stuff you've missed? I've noticed that with your latest music reviews, it seems like you only just started letting yourself indulge because your music is penned and in the process of being tracked. So I think he's talking about like, do you let in outside influences in, or do you make a conscious effort to leave them out? Um, like when you're writing for a new album. So I would say I like a lot of the times with writing music, with writing new music, it just kind of happens. You know what I mean? It usually comes from like I don't usually sit down to write music. I just kind of it'll just happen. You know what I mean? I'll be messing around with the guitar and then it's like, what's that? Oh, that's cool.
So
Or something like that. You know?
for me, and I think I can speak for the group to a certain degree, but check me if I'm wrong. I feel like if anything, if we're influenced at all, it's that we actively run away from trying to please any audience member or any reviewer. Like we say, oh man, they're doing this thing and they sound like this. We're like, all right, well, we're gonna move on from that. We're gonna try something else. But it's not like we sit and ponder like, oh, how can we sit here and saturate this like one thing that we do well? It's more like let's just move on and figure out what we're feeling this year. Or like I'd say we get more influence not from reviewers or from what our audience says and more from just like what we're actively experiencing.
No, I don't think he's talking about the review. Like when we are doing the music, the music reviews that we're doing. I think he's saying like it seems like you guys are doing those after you've written all of your music, as in like maybe you were practicing like not listening to any music while you were writing because you didn't want to have any outside influences and you wanted to kind of have a pure expression.
I finally
and
understand.
Now that it's all written, now you can listen to other bands' albums and do reviews and stuff.
I don't think that's. I think I could speak for people. I don't think that's intentional.
No.
And also, I just feel like especially in this world, we're too interconnected. Everyone, and even if we wanted to like shield ourselves from outside influences, it's gonna get in there no matter what. You know what I mean?
We're not the Shags.
Yeah, and it's just like and on the flip side of that, the other side of that is like
hot take: the Shags are
try to like rip someone off, you can't, because I like related is I went to art school.
Guys, I'll be right back.
I had a painting professor that would like make us try to rip off painters we liked. Because he's like, it doesn't matter. Like you can't be them. You can't do them.
Right.
It's still gonna be you. You can't escape the you. And you're probably gonna learn something from it. So I think that's the two sides of the same coin. Mm-hmm. It's no matter if you try to soak up as much as you can't escape from producing something that's genuinely yours. And the other side of that is, what's the other side? If you try to shield yourself from like all the cultural influences, it's not going to work, and you're part of everything.
Hey guys, 25-second warning. Do you want to wrap it up, or do you want to continue?
Let's do one more, Joe.
One more meeting. One more.
All right, I'm going to cancel this one. Ready?
Okay.
All right. Part 3.
All right.
Part 3. Yeah, just to kind of pick up on Sean's question. One other thing, I don't know. I'm thinking about the language you used of authenticity, and how I don't know. Like, I don't know if you can be anything other than your authentic self, even if you try. That's maybe a little philosophical, but I heard this interview with Rick Rubin recently on with Krista Tippett on Being, was recommended to me by someone, and he came out with a book recently that he worked on for like 7-8 years, and it's really interesting. But he talked about this idea of like, now he feels like ideas are happening like in the like they're in the air, and we just kind of like jump into them. Like we kind of like jump into the current at the right time and pick up on them. And then all the stories about how great of an idea we had are just stories, and how it takes creativity, it takes practice and all that stuff and hard work to manifest things creatively, but that there is kind of like a current out there, and if you don't get in and do it, other people tend to come up with the same ideas around the world and in cultures around the same time.
Yeah, it's like a weird mix of the like collective consciousness and the dialectic or something.
Totally. And I know some of us are more limited in like all the outside world music we listen to than others. Like some people are, and I can only speak for myself. Like it varies from time to time. Sometimes I'm just soaking it up as much as I can. And then I take like a whole year of just like, I don't need any more fucking inputs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there's no correlation between like if I'm having lack of ideas or I'm feeling really prolific or something like that. So it's all out there. There's like billions and billions of songs.
Right.
It's like an enormous ocean of content. And even if you could never listen to it all, but it's still affecting things.
Interesting. Yeah, that's cool, man.
Next question on it.
Next question. All right.
Well,
so
I think Pat
wanted to say
wanted
something.
Oh yeah.
Next question.
Go on.
All right, so here's what I'm thinking here.
Really cool angle there.
So I just want to say I definitely used to intentionally not listen to stuff because I didn't want to be influenced by it. I did that. I did that a lot actually. When I
Remember,
was
Pat, we were just listening to that old stuff.
Yeah.
Me and Pat were just listening to some very, very, very old music that we made when we were like 15, 16.
Yeah.
And we were talking about that. We didn't want to be influenced. We refused to listen to the Beatles for years.
Because it was like everybody's influenced by the Beatles. We don't want to be influenced by the Beatles,
Yeah.
So I definitely did that. But I don't do that much anymore. And I think the main reason is because I started to trust the process more. That I started to trust my own abilities more. Because of that, you might be able to say that that's kind of an insecure thing to do. Is like I don't want to be influenced by the Beatles because whatever. I won't help. Like I can't help but not be derivative of the Beatles if I listen to them or something. It's kind of it might be coming more from insecurity than preservation of the authenticity or something. So I actually,
your intuition may have been right, because now we come to find out that the Beatles were actually a CIA, project.
100% confirmed. 100% confirmed.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I my sort of final thought on that was that I actually listen to a lot more music now than I used to, because I actually want to be influenced by it, because I trust that whatever comes in, like I'm sort of experienced enough now as a creative, that whatever kind of comes in, I trust that it's going to be me that comes, that the stuff that I that comes out of me, the creative output, that I trust that it'll be good and that it'll be me, and it'll be authentically me, and I think that was more of an intentional decision on my part to stop being so weird, and just trust in it more, trust the process of being creative and making music and whatever, and that was what I wanted to add to that.
Yeah, like you are a filter, and it's all going to come through you, and you're going to pick out the things that are appealing to you uniquely to be influenced by, and You don't even really have to consciously think about it. You
I
just
actually
do
like.
it.
I don't have like the training to actually like. I'm not well trained enough to be able to study another person's music and figure out what is sort of what it is that they are doing that's repetitive enough to be recognizable, and then choose to add that or not add that to the compositions that I'm working on. Like I don't. I'm just sort of like it's very much a it's a totally different process for me to do anything creative. I just sort of it just comes in. I don't even really pay that close attention to it, and then whatever I just sort of write stuff and I just chase after feelings.
Right.
You know, that's pretty much all. That's how I do everything creatively. Is I just chase after feelings.
Yeah.
You know, so and when you kind of just accept that, or if that is your process, then you be a little more fearless about what you take in. Because maybe it's just going to come out and be some weird mutated version of everything, which is actually which could be really cool. You know,
you always hear people say like, "Hey, were you listening to this when you made this?" And they're like, "Actually, I was going for the exact opposite." You know, and that's one of the like I remember one of the coolest things. This is kind of related, but one of my coolest memories of Jamie and me working together was when we were, I think it was the White Book, Jamie, was it maybe? And I was doing this, I wanted to do this, like we decided like we need to have this kind of searing guitar solo kind of thing, you know? And David Gilmour got mentioned. It was like, you should do like a Gilmour thing here, you know? And I remember saying like, I don't know enough Pink Floyd. Like, I don't really listen to Pink Floyd. I don't even know what that would be like. And you said like, Dan, just do what you think David Gilmour would sound. And like for some, that was like so fun. Like that immediately was just like, oh, that's crazy. I love that, you know?
Wow.
Yeah, no, so that's interesting you say that, Dan, because I am very much, I feel like I'm different from I'm different from some of the people I've worked with before with music, especially my buddy Sam, where it's like he's afraid to sound like anybody. He's got to be 1,000% unique. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's just a way of working, and you want to integrate your influences. I just like, look, I love this stuff and it's in my head generally when I'm working on stuff, but I'm never going to sound exactly like X or Y, because when it's filtered through what I do, even if I'm trying to channel it, it's never I'm not as good as that person technically, or B, it's just like I can't execute it in the same way, or C, I'm using different equipment, or D, it's just not exactly who I am. So I try to like embrace the influence and then filter it through what I do, and it usually sounds like pretty unique, or I think I don't know, from my perspective, it sounds unique to me, and it doesn't necessarily sound like I'm trying to just rip off this artist. And so I'm really not afraid to try to embody the spirit of what someone else is trying to do necessarily. Like I definitely enjoy like trying to dive into like what were they thinking? How were they, what were they trying to accomplish with this style of piece of music or style of playing? And it just never ends up, I don't think, ever sounding copycat, because I just don't, I don't know. I don't try to be another person. I try to just sort of leverage the spirit of what's happening. And that's through my own playing and my own styles.
You're really good with that, Joe. Like a lot of times when we're writing songs, me and Pat especially will like send everybody like a YouTube video of like, do something like this. And it's kind of like, and I feel like sometimes like we'll like, I get the impression that Manda, like when sometimes when we send it, it's like, yo, do something like this. He's like, what the fuck are you guys talking about? You know what I mean? Like, I'm just going to do what the song needs. You know what I mean? Like whatever. But like Dorsey will like, he'll like listen to it and then he'll come up with something that sounds like that. You know what I mean? But in a very like in a unique way. Like he almost kind of sees it as a challenge of sort of like, you know, just a better way of working, just 100% better, than Manda, just really
100%.
No, but like he'll like he'll just add like something, and it's like, oh yeah, that's that sounds like a flavor of that. You know what I mean? And although I love
it's dangerous.
Monda's
It's
approach,
dangerous.
just like fuck you, man. No,
It's dangerous because for me, it's like, yo, this thing makes me feel a certain way, and I
Right.
want you to imitate. I want you to do something that makes me feel the same way.
right.
You know, and it's just such a subjective thing, that it's hard to translate that. And so some people you can sort of talk to that way, and others you shouldn't. And
But
Right.
I guess
you
my
have
point
to
was,
learn.
I know some people try to run away from that as fast as possible.
Yeah.
And I get that. Like, I totally understand that. And then there's some people who embrace it, but so totally that they don't end up putting themselves into it enough. And it's just,
Right. It
oh,
just
you
sounds
sound like
too
a
much
literal
like that,
clone.
yes.
And I feel like for me, I like to work in the middle where it's like, yes, I am trying to copy One O Tricks Point Never, but
Yes.
filtered through my own decision making and style. It's like, well, no, it's not going to be exactly the same. It's going to be filtered through me.
And it's like
It's
not because you can do that. Like, hey, I do a pretty good impression of One O Tricks Point Never. It's
Sure.
like, no, that's what he makes me feel a certain way, so I'm going to try and
Exactly.
make this song evoke that emotion.
Exactly.
Well, that's kind of like in Hell on a Creature.
Yeah.
When we had the demo for it, I'm like, I think I'm gonna do like a Mars Volta type, like John Theodore thing for there. And you're
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
no, that would kind of sound stupid. And then
Yeah.
I sent you guys recording, and you're like, that's pretty fucking
Yeah,
cool.
it's actually exactly what that needs. Yeah. No, I mean, to be fair though, I think like I'm thinking probably more like last album stuff, but like this album, we would send Monda stuff and he would come back with like especially like what was it called? All the Living, that fucking Bruford-esque, indisciplined shit. Like it was like, damn, he like really took the flavor of that and made it his own, when we went to record it. So it might be unfair to characterize Monda as the
Fuck up, yeah.
For me, it really boils down to trust.
Yeah.
I learned to trust myself, and then
it's a question of lust. It's a question of trust.
I learned to trust the band, and I learned to trust the process. It sounds super cliche, but I think it's the way to go. I really do. I think it frees you up, and you can just create freely, and it can be joy. Like it really should be a joy to create something. And if it's not, you're probably fucking it up somewhere. You know what I mean? Like it should be a joy, man. Even if it's a sad song or something, it should hit those notes somewhere in you is like it's joyful.
Damn right.
Next one.
Growing uncertain